Yo, what up guys? New video here. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a breach map test, which I don't actually think is that good of a strategy. But I went ahead and made a new character here, pretty standard dodge roll character that a lot of people are playing that Jung made. Pretty much just stole his build 1-to-1, not too much to say there. But I'm going to go ahead and run 50 breach maps here. I need to buy another 2 sets of these tablets, but I'll do that while we're mapping. The important thing on our tablets here is that they have increased effectiveness and then increased effectiveness of rare breach monsters. We have both of these mods to get the most amount of blood, as well as we have unique tablets here which have the 5 additional monsters spawn and stabilized. I have 5 and 4s. You'll see pretty much 5s are a little bit too expensive just because people are farming a different strategy for breach that I'm not doing. But we'll go ahead and make sure that all 4 at least. And then we'll go ahead and fill up our currency tablets empty and our quad tablets empty and see how much we can get. In terms of just general loot and whatnot, and then I'm just going to really quickly check. We have about 2,000 hive blood here, so we'll start there, see how much we can get in those 50 maps. I also just wanted to point out, all the cities are pretty much good for this. I chose forest, I chose grass, and I chose desert up here. Those are just because they have more effectiveness. So all these have effectiveness of monsters, all these have rares, stuff like that. And then any chance you can, we're taking more effectiveness. So basically, there's some other options in here, but all you really care about is just anywhere there's effectiveness, anywhere there's rare monsters, we're going to be taking those. And with all that said, let's jump into it. Alright, we finished up our maps, all 50, and ended up dying 4 times. Bricked 2 of the maps. One of them I died at the very end after killing the boss, and one I died after doing all the breaches, so we're going to count it. We generated in total about 160,000 hive blood, of which I've used all of the ornates and lavish from gifts that dropped. These are the trees I was using. Honestly, it doesn't really matter that much. There's a lot of different options. You can do belts and rings as well, but they're just huge gambles where you get nothing or you get, a mirror or 100 divines, which I don't really want to do. So I'm just gonna chill on my hive blood. Eventually, I'll probably use it on more amulets once I get better room gifts. So to take a look at our currency here, this is a quad tab of what's remaining. So lots of the ring and belt room gifts. Random jewelry I'll probably list in a dump tab, and this dump tab for like 50x. And come to the currency. So a lot of div, just a ton of raw currency. One of the biggest moneymakers is also the chaos orbs. 113 chaos orbs is crazy. Same thing, got a bunch of the good catalysts down here, so I used all of our currency towards catalysts. Reavers obviously going to be the biggest moneymakers. I used some of our caster catalyst here on these amulets you see in my inventory, which are really the only good amulets I got from our tree here. And we'll just quickly highlight those. I mean, these are insane. I probably got really lucky. For the div per hour, I'm just not going to count any of these. If you actually price check, you go through and look at these. Some of these are 45, 70 divines, pretty crazy. This one's also pretty crazy. Actually, this is the least crazy of all of them. This is maybe like 15 something, 1530, whatever. This one's also crazy. This one's probably like 100, yeah, maybe 70, maybe 85, something like that. So I'm not going to count any of these. This is just like one div fracture. Doesn't really matter. So those are all of the rares we got. I'll sort of cover those in the spreadsheet here in a second, as well as all this currency. And then we also got 8 of the breach stones. We got 5 crisis fragments from running these in cities that had bosses, as well as 1 saga here. So that's pretty much what we got. These amulets are going to be a huge part of our profit in the end, sort of making this pretty illegal in terms of currency per hour. But that's because I have a really fast character. It took me about 4.5 hours, a little bit less than to run all these maps, averaging about 4 or 5 minutes a map. I could definitely have been faster if I was really locked in, but ultimately I was just there trying to get XP and went from 91 all the way up to 96. And I think it was a pretty good strategy. Alright guys, jumping into our spreadsheet here, we can see the total div from this project is about 116. That is most importantly not including any of those amulets, just because if you got unlucky, or if you, for example, were using your graph blood for something else, you wouldn't have those. So it took me about 4 hours and 20 minutes to run all these. I roughly timed it. I'm just gonna put 5 hours in here, just for posterity's sake. You can definitely, if you put 4.2 in here, you see that 4.2 div per hour goes up to 26. Again, we'll just leave it at 5. No harm, no foul. So including these rares down here, which are roughly priced, and those are pretty conservative estimates for what those items are. You'll see my actual div is up here at 53. I think in late game farming strategies, getting 40, 50 plus divines is not crazy, especially like the headhunter farms, the magewood farms from high investment ritual. You can definitely push that if you're lucky. If you just don't get a headhunter or mage blood, you go dry for multiple sets of tablets, and then all of a sudden you're out hundreds of divines. So this is a pretty chill strat, and more importantly, it was just to level up my character from 91 to 96, as I said previously. So pretty big fan of it. If you have a slower character, I want to highlight this because if you took 10 hours to run the same number of maps I did, you're only making about 11 div. If you want to include getting some of these lucky amulets, sure, that would be a lot closer to 25 div an hour. But obviously you can't guarantee you're gonna get some pretty lucky rares. So we'll roll to 22 an hour again, pretty much the exact same as my previous video. Seems to be a good spot for fast and strong characters. Going down, break down specific what we got out of every map. You'll see specifically here, divs are a huge part of our profit, 46 of them to be exact, as I showed previously. The chaos is really big, as well as the greater chaos here. I'm probably gonna end up just using these in my own crafting projects, but for the sake of video, those are pure profit. We'll see we got a bunch of nulls, which is pretty unfortunate because the nulls are very, very rare. As you can see, 46 divs to 8 nulls. I think I got 1 3 div lead mechanic in there, so technically 43 raw divine drops on the floor. You get a ton of them from the rare monsters in Breach. That's kind of what we're doing by scaling less effectiveness and all the rare monsters, is you're scaling the amount of loot you're going to get from those rare monsters. So you can look through this if you want. Nothing too crazy here. You'll notice the catalyst, the two big ones, are obviously going to be the Reaver and the attack and the cast one. Those are because you can make the +3 amulets go to +4, so they get used up a lot, as well as other crafting stuff I don't want to get into. But specifically, also you'll notice this one's lower, so this is the casting one. And that's because I actually used about 2.5 to 3 divines of these catalysts on one of our amulets to do a little bit of crafting. The rest of that was pretty cheap, and then I bought 2 jawbones that came out of this X profit here, so technically we'd have another 180x, but I bought 2 jawbones to put on my amulets. I would say it's pretty worth given their current evaluation. If they actually sell for something like that, then excellent. But yeah, overall, really, really successful strategy. You used 50 maps of cities, so if you had another strategy that needs city maps, obviously you're losing value there because I'm gonna have to go run a bunch of new maps to find more cities. But I'll leave you with a little voiceover of an example map. But I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching. Try and drop more mirrors than I do because I don't need them. Bye. I wanted to give a quick demo map showcase here, even though there's not a ton to talk about with this strat. Pretty much all we're doing is going in, finding all of our breaches, doing our summoning circles if we run into them in a timely manner, and then killing the boss. So not a ton to really delve into there, but I will make a few mention of stuff, which is you always want to be fully exploring your breaches, and what that actually means is that you can just run to the middle of the breach as it gets stabilized, kill it, and move on with your life. But you're going to lose a lot of extra currency doing that versus fully exploring the outer edges of your breach. And it's because it'll spawn a ton of monsters, and if you don't kill them, when you end up closing it, you don't actually end up getting nearly as much stuff. So we'll see here what I'm doing is that I can go back and kill the rares here, but I'm going to come down here and make sure we're killing all of this extra monsters before we go ahead and close that breach totally. And same thing here, this layout doesn't allow us to do it a ton, but on different layouts where you can actually loop around, stuff like this, you'll see I'm going around the whole outer edge here, making sure we get all of these monsters. I have a headhunter, so I can clear these maps pretty quick, especially as soon as we kill one of these breaches and you kill the 15 or so rares that spawn. With all these headhunter buffs, the map is pretty much already dead. Just a matter of going around and attacking stuff. So I would recommend if you have a hunter, this is a great strategy for you. If you don't, I'm sure you can still do it. You just need to be able to have a tanky enough character to survive those 15 rares I'm talking about, and make sure you can kill them quickly, whether or not it's off-screening them or just enough damage. So definitely recommend doing that. My character would be better with a mage blood, but I can't afford a good one and don't really want to roll. So for now, we're just gonna rock out that hunter and farm out this currency to hopefully one day afford it. So same thing, we're gonna go around the whole outer edge of our breach here before we go back to the middle. So just making sure we get all these extra monsters, really important. Alright, so that's most of them. Alright, we got one of the bosses here. They're pretty squishy. At least for me, I can blow through them pretty quick. Might be all the editor buffs when they tend to spawn, but yep. Looting with scroll wheel here, if you don't know the tech, it is very helpful. Bind the scroll wheel to loot or left click, and then you can go ahead and quicken is entirely within GG's TOS. One action for one click. So something I'll point out here is you notice our breach now has a check mark here on the right. That is over here. Let me see right there. That's how you know your map is done. Basically, you've killed all of the breaches. As soon as you open the last one, that check mark will pop up. So we'll go ahead and finish our last breach off down here that we left and call it a map. Not too much good loot this one, but general good mapping showcase there. So if you guys found that useful.